You think a ticket for not wearing your seatbelt is the worst that could happen. A fine, an inconvenience, a little embarrassment. But then comes the crash. There are injuries, a stay in the hospital, the long road to recovery, the moments you'll miss. Suddenly, a ticket doesn't seem so bad. That ticket? That was to remind you to buckle up before it's too late. Click it, or ticket. Paid for by NHTSA.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by Lucky Bastard Distillers, Saskatchewan's premier distillery, and by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, brewed in the heart of Regina. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only Does John Now Like Zach Caleras podcast. I am Joel Gasson with John Fraser, as usual. Plenty to get to. As due to sort of how close the two Rider preseason games were to each other, we just decided to kind of bundle it all into one nice package for you so we can kind of break down the entire preseason in one go here. Plus, John.
Also, because there was literally no video anywhere, so I would have been like, I can talk out of my ass, and I've done it on this very podcast here before. Oh, goodness, I could not have done it off of like a 2-minute highlight video that was a minute 30 of kicks.
Yes, I was going to say the other reason was John didn't really get a chance to see the game last week, so we decided to hold off to talk about the game that he literally could not see because he was there in person.
That's. I mean, I did have a lot of beer, so you know, some memories might be a little blurry.
That's okay. It's a preseason game. No one's really going to remember that much anyway.
I mean, entertaining as hell preseason game. I will say that.
Great preseason game. I would say even if that was a regular season game, that would have been a pretty decent football game.
Oh, 100%. I mean, a little sloppy, but we'll get to all that.
To be expected this time of year. So we will talk, of course, about that. Sort of the big topic of conversation coming out of the preseason is the Rider quarterback room and how it's suddenly looking fairly full. And
yes,
a spot a few months ago, we were kind of curious as to what it would actually look like and if anyone would pan out. Well, we have a few conversations to have there, because if we had a conversation last week, it would sound very different than the one we're having this week. That's apparently how fast these things can change in the CFL.
Yeah, especially when your preseason is essentially over by the time the regular season is still weeks away.
Yes, and then, of course, we will discuss the schedule, because the Riders now don't play until June 13th.
That's a thing. Mm-hmm. That's so I'm glad we can encapsulate the preseason in one episode. Yeah. We had this podcast through COVID. We'll be fine for the next 2 weeks.
We'll be okay. We have plans. It's all good.
Yes.
We do have to bring up a certain conversation that may be difficult for one, Jonathan Q. Fraser.
It is, yes.
And that was Zach Caleras did something nice for him and his family. And John's having difficulty sort of analyzing this and internalizing it.
I am. I am only because we've never said that Zach's not a good dude.
No.
We've never suggested.
We've never questioned his character.
No. We've never said he's a bad person. I even found him entertaining on the CFL panel. It's just I've always said he's overrated. Now I feel very torn because at the end of the day, I'm still a human being, right? So Griffith Stadium, great setup. We'll get into a lot more of that in a bit here, but our seats were close to where the Bombers were coming onto the field. So they had their dressing room in the adjacent hockey rink, and they were going to come through a long path to come onto the field. So catching this, I said, hey, who wants to come down and cheer on the Bombers with me? Thinking that Max, who's dressed in Bomber gear, would. Instead, Maya says yes. She's head to toe in Rider gear. I'm in my classic 14 jersey with my hat and all ready to go. So we're standing there, and the players all line up, and they're getting ready to take the field. And coincidentally, I end up like feet away from Zach Collaros. Zach sees my jersey, says, love your jersey, shakes my hand over the fence. And I said, yeah, Zach, I said, have a great game. And then what he does is, Maya's up on my shoulders, again, head to toe in Rider gear. He shakes her little hand, pats her on the head, and says, have fun watching us today. And it was like the cutest, it was like just the cutest thing for this little girl. Like, she's like vibrating excited, and she gives Zach a high five.
Yeah.
And you know how kids can be. They can be quite shy.
Oh, yeah.
And at that moment, there was because it was such a sweet moment. Again, I think my criticisms are fair. Have they been maybe over the top in setting ourselves apart in making my point? Yeah, probably. That's me as a person.
John's over the top, never.
Never
about anything, no.
But at that moment, as he patted Maya on the head, and I said, maybe I need new gear for her by the end of the game, and he laughs and fist bumped me, I'm like, am I the world's biggest asshole? Like, there's just, and that's the thing, being a fan. In the media, it's easy to separate yourself. You're the media, right? Like, we're not the media. I do not pretend to be, nor do I pretend to play a media member on TV anymore, right? Unless it comes to getting me out of jury duty, then I will help you.
No.
And no, we're a couple guys that have 7 people listen to us. One of them's deceased now, so still 7 from beyond the grave. But we're a couple guys that hang out, have some drinks, and talk football and make each other laugh. And hopefully all of you that listen. So at that moment, I'm like, you're reminded for a second that these guys are real guys. And I'm glad that, it's one of those moments that I'm glad that Zach's straight up character came out and lived up to what he is. Now, am I going to be immune from criticizing Zach
the very
Collaros?
first, 8 for 16 game for $110 and 2 interceptions, it comes right back out.
100%. But at that moment, I'm not going to lie. I'll be very open. I struggled a little bit with.
Do you think he knew it was you? Do you think maybe Darren Cameron was like, hey, that's John Fraser from the 3 Down Greencast? Not that Darren Cameron ever listens to this, I'm sure. But someone within the Bomber organization has to have known what we've said about him at some point. Oh,
you'd think. That or the guy's got the thickest skin ever, right? So yeah. I honestly don't know, and maybe he did. And
he turned face right in front of you. He turned face.
In fairness, and he had that Cody Rhodes smile, too. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like,
he's a very complicated character like Cody Rhodes is right now, I guess.
Right? I mean, because everything is wrestling. Exactly. But yeah, I hope, part of me hopes that Zach knew who I was.
That would have been great.
Just because if you can take some asshole criticizing you about your play and smile and dab up that guy's daughter, that makes you a better human than I could ever be. And if he didn't know who I was, which is the more
likely outcome, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Still, for a guy to still do that, to the fans, and I mean, was this before a super intense game? No, but to take the moment and dap up fans and shake somebody's hand and make
played 5 plays and then left. So,
and in fairness, he looked really damn good. I'm not gonna lie.
He did. Yeah. He did.
So it was, and that's where I sat. I'm like, am I? I hope he knows not that that it makes me a big wheel, but a guy like that can hear my dumb takes and have a thick skin and still be humans at the end of the day. I would love to sit down for a beer with Zach Collaros. I absolutely would. Right? I mean, but he's a bigger man than me, because if I had to listen to a guy like me tell me I'm shitty, and trust me, I have had lots of people tell me I'm very bad at all of my jobs. Whether that's in the car business, I've been a broadcaster, right? You're opening yourself up for criticism, right? I remember moving to Lloydminster and having people say, why'd you hire somebody from Ontario? Because my accent was far more pronounced back then. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was a cool moment. It's one that Maya won't forget. But the funny thing is, in typical Maya fashion, we get back up to the stands, and I'm telling the family, and Lacey's excited and her mom's excited and the boys are like, that's so cool. And I said to her, I'm like, so Maya, the Bombers quarterback said he wants you to have a good game. Are you going to cheer for them now? She just looks at me deadpan. No, go Riders. Like, not even a hesitation, not even a, like, that was cool. Like, hey, the Bombers, you know, arguably in that game, their best player just said, hey, have a good game and pat you on the head. And she's like, do you want a Bombers jersey now? No, go Riders.
Fair enough.
But
she luckily wasn't wearing a jersey of both teams.
Oh my God!
As there was also this is like breaking news, I guess, because I'm sure you've shared this to a few people, and I have too, because you sent me the picture, and I asked if I could share it to some people.
Yes.
There is a jersey of a man, and we don't know this man, and this is not to again defame this man's character in any sort of way.
But this is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen at a sporting event.
It's very strange. The whole Rider Bomber mashup jersey to begin with is very strange. Like, unless it's a scenario where, you know, the Kelsey brothers and mom has like the double jersey of like for her sons playing against each other. Like, if it's that scenario, like if the Herman twins weren't on the same team for the first time ever in their career, and one was on the Bombers and one was on the Riders, and their family was there, I get it. Cool.
Right.
But this is the Rider Bomber jersey, green and blue, with the names of 6 quarterbacks on the back who I believe have played for both organizations.
Yes. So split jersey. So the thing with the split jersey, like you said, unless you're a parent or a family member, with both on there, it alone is a jersey foul. Like, you might as well just go buy a generic CFL jersey. But as I'm leaving the stadium, and I had seen this, I thought I saw a split Bomber Rider jersey, and I didn't really get a close look. As I'm leaving the stadium, yes, there is a older gentleman. With the jersey is quite literally a half a Bomber jersey, half a Riders jersey sewn together with across the back.
Yeah. This is like the guy in Cleveland with like every quarterback they've had for the last 30 years.
Yes, but this guy had Michael Bishop, Kevin Glenn, Ryan Dinwiddie, Drew Willie, and Zach Collaros down the middle. Like, half the name is on the Rider side, half the name is on the Bomber side, and he's wearing a Bombers hat.
It all lines up except for Bishop for some reason.
Yeah, it's strange, it's unusual, and it's like, did you just have that, like, that's like a gag, maybe, but...
Yeah, like, did he lose a bet? If he was younger, I would say that is his fantasy football punishment, but... Right,
but no, this is a guy that took the time, and it looks very hand-sewn. I'm sure his wife did a very good job, or maybe he's sneaky with those big man hands, can be a bit of a sewer, but in split jerseys, like... And it's not like it's a cost-effective thing. You have to go out and buy 2 jerseys, cut them in half, and then sew them together. So you're doubling the cost of the jersey to do like.
Does this mean he has another split jersey at home, probably with other names on it?
I have no idea. What do you do to have the jersey?
Like you could do Dressler. Like, there's got to be some other players that have played for both.
Dembski, maybe he does the receivers.
Yeah.
Dressler. You could throw Harris as a running back. You could throw him on there. He's a coach now. Like, oh my God. It was like the biggest of jersey fouls I've ever seen. And I'm not one that sits there and goes jersey foul, right? No. You spend your hard-earned money on a jersey. You know, so if the player gets... Like, I have an Ian Logan Bombers jersey. He became a cop a year after I bought that jersey, right? Like, these things are going to happen. I have a Ryan Dinwiddie Bomber jersey, right? My Sergio jersey literally says Sergio, right? Like, it's not... Like, if you want to spend your hard-earned money that way... And actually, it's funny. Quite a few, both Bombers and Riders fans came up and were like, I absolutely love your jersey. And I'm like, well, thank you. You know, who else has the kicker that was supposed to play but didn't last minute? Serge, come on, man. But yeah, a dual jersey split like that, the time and money that went into something like that, jersey foul, go burn it, please. Never wear it again.
Yeah. Most people like to burn preseason tape and move on from it, but we will talk a little bit about the preseason that was for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, as in less than a week. It started and then it finished because they played on Monday, Victoria Day, and then Saturday. It was done.
So weird.
Like the shortest preseason ever. We'll talk a bit about the schedule on that a little bit, because I think there are actually some advantages to this that may work in their favor. Maybe not necessarily the week 1 bye, but the week 3 bye of the preseason, I think, actually kind of works in some ways. We'll get into that. We'll get into the game itself and, of course, the quarterback room. But as always, John, for Lucky Bastard Distillers, what is in the glass this week?
In the glass, keeping it simple. It's summertime. It is lemon, club soda, and Lucky Bastard vodka tonight.
No, adding mix.
I know, right? In fairness, it's more like a whisper of club soda, and it's in a big glass. That's why I'm not double fisting tonight.
Okay. For me, I picked up a 4-pack recently of one of my favorite beers that taste like beers, the Pile of Bones Prairie Pills.
Ooh, yes.
Just a nice, dry, easy drinking Pilsner style beer, which I enjoy because there's nothing like a good, crisp, like really dry Pilsner, especially when it's hot as balls out.
Yes. When you're sweating, you're on the deck after you finish mowing that lawn. You're right. Nothing beats a beer that tastes like beer.
Mm-hmm. You were consuming some beers that tasted like beer last week, or the other day, I guess, as the Riders played the Bombers in Saskatoon, might I add. Which worked out really well for both of us because you got to go to a Rider game in your own city. You got to take the kids to a preseason game, which, as we kind of talked about off the air before, is like the ideal game to take your kids to because it's like, if they want to go, we go, whatever. Or they don't really know what's going on yet. That's fine. It's preseason, whatever. So, you got that advantage, and I got the advantage of not having to go to a preseason game.
Everybody wins.
It was fantastic. And kudos, and we got to give a kudos out to CFL.ca. I know the highlights have been difficult to find, but after last year's debacle of CFL Plus not working very well during the preseason, it's been flawless this preseason. So
yeah, and you know what? I want to start by the game day experience. Okay. Yep. And go into that, the pros and cons that I found of that, and we'll go into the actual football later. For one, the party in the park, amazing, right? I know that's something that's usual for, you down in Regina, right? Yep. But like having a place to, especially because
this year we get full on tailgating too.
Oh, that's right, 100% you do. So party in the park was really cool, especially with Griffith Stadium is a very easy place to bus to, right? Parking there can be a nightmare. So we took the city bus. It was great. More reasons why we should have, people that say a downtown anything would not fly here. Just makes you take the bus. Had a nice little bus ride. Pull up to the party in the park. Same thing you could win. One of my favorite subjoints is Jersey Mike's. Won a couple coupons there. There's bouncy castles. There was cold beer. There was a live DJ. The cheer team performed. Places to throw footballs. Like, it's the ultimate, okay, I don't have to rush and get to the game and just wait and do nothing, right? It's a really cool vibe. They closed it down right before kickoff. So that, party in the park, 10 out of 10. Great job. Okay? The atmosphere itself. They brought in a Jumbotron, which was cool, because that was the one thing Griffiths is lacking. Griffiths does not have a Jumbotron.
Normally isn't really a big problem, no.
No, exactly. Another big thing is they brought in beer tents, okay? They had brought in food trucks. They had food trucks at the party in the park, which at a small thing like the party in the park, the food trucks can handle the workload. And this is not a rant about the Griffiths game. This is a rant about all special events everywhere. If you're expecting a shitload of people, don't rely on food trucks. I'll tell you that for free right now. Party in the park, they were slinging burgers and chips and stuff. You could go buy that. Now, when you get to Griffith Stadium, attendance was what, about 8,000 gas?
75 plus, yep.
Okay, so 75 plus, call it 8. Okay, so you come in, and Griffith Stadium is just very much a stadium, right? It's got bleachers, it's got stands. During Husky football games, they set up a beer gardens in one of the end zones. So there's not a lot of frills, right?
But they do have for its normal purpose.
Exactly, which is 7,000 to 8,000 people watching university football. Now, what bewildered me, I get it, it's probably about who's making the money off of this, but the Huskies have a concession that is there, that is used to the workload, because a Husky game is very similar. You got a couple beer tents, and then you have this large concession building. And that is used to handling, pop, water, burgers, hot dogs, taco in a bag, kind of your basics for 7,000 to 8,000 people. Everybody, everywhere, ever. Food trucks are not capable of doing that. And if you're going to have food trucks, maybe you should get them to, discuss what they're going to be selling. The problem was, and I noticed this pregame, and it gets worse. Pregame, you had one food truck selling delicious Asian food. You had another one with taco stuff. You had another one with mini donuts. Well, the only one that would even sell just water a la carte was the Asian food truck. Which, let's face it, a lot of good Asian food is not quick to come out, right? So, You're either asking you to cut in line, hey, I'm just grabbing some water, and most people were fairly chill with that. The mini donut one would only sell lemonade, whatever, I don't care, my kids are full of sugar for a night, but same thing, right? Now, where the disconnect was you had beer tents selling various beer. You had like seltzers, you had the pre-mixed whiskey and ginger ale things, which were very good, by the way. But you couldn't just get a bottle of water that easily. Okay? So now, when your only places to get hydration are also your only places to get food, and none of them are used to handling a crowd of 7,000 to 8,000 people, the lineups were atrocious at the food trucks. Beers, no problem. I was up, down the stairs a few times, grabbing drinks for me and Lace, and the family, no problem. Very short, reasonable lineups for drinks. But at one point, and I'll be the first to admit, this was a dick move. I was a dick. But I also had paid for these tickets. I wanted to watch the game, and the lineup at the lemonade selling truck probably was an hour. I'm not exaggerating. At one point, I let Max run down to get mini donuts because Max was just not into the game. And after 30 minutes, Lacey, Max, and Maya went to leave at halftime, and Max probably had a 15-minute wait to get mini donuts. I'll admit, I was a dick. I went up to the front of the line. I said, who here is just getting a lemonade? And some kid put his hand up. I said, I will buy your lemonade and your friend a lemonade if I can jump in line with you. Dick move. I'm going to admit, it's a dick move. But on the same note, if it was just me, I wouldn't give a shit. But when I've got, Connor was thirsty. Yeah. When I've got a thirsty 7-year-old and I want to watch a football game, I'm sorry, I am going to flex my not large financial muscle to do that, right? So I think in terms of food and concessions, it's a hard zero. Like, I was talking to the boys from the Piffles podcast. It couldn't
have been that hard to just throw bottles of water into the beer tents.
Bottles of water and Pepsi. Like, I like, it wasn't, and the beer tents were set up. They were basically, it was tap. It was just like bang, 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 get your drinks. Like, how hard, it's not like I'm expecting you to have like whiskey and Pepsi, but like if I could go up and get 2 beers for me and my wife, which again, you can't carry more than 2, which is fine. Mm-hmm. If I'm I could literally have an armful of cold drinks. And at that point, I wouldn't have given a shit if you were charging me $5 for a water or a pop. Like, the fact that nobody communicated between each other to figure out, okay, who's going to sell water in a timely manner, gives it to me a hard zero. The fact that I'm assuming the Riders rented the space from the university, that nobody approached the university about using their concession building, which is there for that. It's just the concessions were a very large negative in a sea of positives.
Yeah, it seems like it was one of those scenarios where it seemed good in theory, because I think when you're going to a professional sporting event, there's sort of a higher standard than just average concession food that people are expecting these days. So,
right.
Like, I understand the thought process. It obviously just didn't work out in practice.
No, but on the same note, when I go to professional sporting events, I also like having the choice between waiting for maybe some high-end, high-end Asian street food, or just getting a greasy fucking hot dog.
For sure.
And you couldn't get a greasy hot dog at a football game. No popcorn, nothing like that. Because
it also sounds like the food truck should have adjusted their menus to be faster items, frankly.
Well, I don't know, and it seems like the fact that nobody had water, but even like, okay, so the mini donut truck, all they're slinging is mini donuts and lemonade.
Yeah.
And they were lined up for 45 minutes. You can't expect 8,000 people out of a food truck. And here's the funny thing. The same food trucks were at the party in the park, and they did just fine there because it was a much smaller crowd, right? It was a much smaller crowd that wasn't coming in waves. So I don't know who made that decision to have just the food trucks and to not have water, to not have... And I get it. It's hard to find staff to go and like sling beers through the crowd. I'm not expecting any of that. If I got to stand in line to get my beer, I got to stand in line to get a water, I got no problem with that, right? But it was such a, like, I wanted to eat. I wanted to spend money. I wanted a hot dog. But I'm like, okay, I can either stand in line and have probably 2 more beer than I should tonight, or I can wait for food. So instead, I'm sure it was a great night for every pizza place in Saskatoon that night. Because I don't think I saw anybody eating, because those lines were absolutely atrocious. So that to me is a major, major, major negative. And I'm not just saying that about the Riders. I find that too many events when you have a large gathering are relying on food trucks who are not equipped to handle that. And it looks bad on the food trucks. It looks bad on your event. It's becoming a habit. Like, hey, we have food trucks. Okay, great. Well, I want a drink tent, right? Like, it's not an unreasonable ask. So that to me was a massive negative on the entire event, right? Now,
fair enough, yep.
I think the event itself, like the fact the game was good, the sightlines at Griffiths are incredible, right? And being able to just, and this is something that I think maybe folks in Regina take for granted, or maybe just people, like, let's face it, people are traveling less to watch professional sports these days. The numbers are there. I've had tons of conversations with people, but I on my way out, I saw Craig Reynolds, and I said, Craig, I'm like, thank you so much for bringing this game here. Like, I got to do something cool with my kids, got to do something cool with my family that I probably wouldn't have an opportunity to do if this game wasn't here.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
So, and then he gave me, shit for wearing head-to-toe bomber gear, as expected, and then I wanted to say something about the one who shall not be named, but I digress. I left on a slightly drunk but classy note and said, hey, Craig, do it again next year. And let's face it, maybe... I don't know if you do this annually. No,
like we were kind of talking about this before. I think this is a great idea. I think because the fact that it had been 35 years since the Riders played a game up there sort of added to the sort of the excitement of the moment, right? So I don't, and like it would probably do fine if you did it every year.
Yes.
It'd probably do fine. But I think if you want it to be more of a smashing success, it's got to be at least every 2 years, maybe even 4, just to like let it breathe a bit in between so people aren't like, oh yeah, the Riders are back here again this year for their preseason game. I've seen some preseason games. They've been pretty bad. I'm kind of over it, right? Like you have to keep them enough to keep them engaged with the product to want to come and buy tickets, but not overindulge it when it's not the home market,
Well,
especially for a preseason game. If it was a regular season game and they did that once a year, they'd sell it out instantly all the time. It wouldn't.
Oh God! It would be the highest demand thing ever, right?
And then, I mean, it's like they fell into a good scenario this year where they essentially have the extra home game because the Argos are having their home game at Mosaic Stadium. So you can put a game in Saskatoon without having to figure out what to do with your, most of your season ticket base that isn't going to be coming up to that game. What do you do with that ticket that they now don't get to use, right? Because you get the preseason game as part of your ticket package normally. So, I mean, it's probably pretty easy just to give them a credit for next year or give them a credit to another game or something. Whatever they want, it's probably easy enough to do. But without having to do any of that, this was like the perfect ideal scenario for that. And that is unlikely to probably happen again.
Certainly. I think, though, if you could find a way to do it next year, just to get the formula down.
Sure.
Because right now, you've got it... You realize there were some errors in the way things were done, right? The other thing, too, kudos to the organization, another 10 out of 10, they made the game feel huge. And by that, I mean, you go to the mall and Gaynor the Gopher's there, right? And you go to the Riders store.
Fastest mascot.
That was a work, and I loved your article on it.
Yeah, in fairness, work, but they could have done a better work anyway.
Right. I mean, in fairness, I was in line for lemonade at that point, missed the whole damn thing. So, anyways,
I mean, we can get into it. The whole game was a work because Daniel Weeb caught the game-winning touchdown.
That's fair, and I mean, Shagger kind of got put
Zach
over
at
the
end. So happy before the game, he's like, "Oh, this thing's scripted. This is perfect. I don't have to worry about it."
They're gonna let me score a touchdown. They're gonna let Trevor score a touchdown.
He comes out and looks perfect. Great, good. Let's go.
You know what? You know what? The fact that there was a late pick six by Winnipeg to go up, only for the hometown kid to score, like, that's it. Game was a work. It was all predetermined. So they know they could come back. I would like to see it. I would like to see it go back to back just so they can get the kinks worked out. So you're not leaning on food trucks, and you're not, you're able to maybe utilize university facilities, or at least have water and Pepsi tents or whatever. And then take a break from there, right? Because I think the other thing too that helps is Saskatchewan fans will show up for a Bomber game, right? If you're hosting Ottawa here,
well, the thing about the preseason is three of the last 4 Rider preseason games have been against Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You can count on them playing the Bombers at least once every preseason.
Well, and that's it. And I think that's smart for both teams, right?
Like, well, the league does it. Like, it's a cost-saving measure where they put geographically close teams together in the preseason.
Right. And it is smart. Yeah. But I mean, too, like, people will, like, I saw some jerseys outside of that atrocious split one. I saw some ones that are like, Winnipeg sucks, right? And you're like, okay. Like, it's still, at its core, it's still a Bomber Rider game, and you're always going to have fun. Guys like me wearing all the blue and gold, and, gently shit talking, I should say, because it's all laughs and everything at the end of the day, and everybody says good game afterwards, right? No, I would like to see it come back next year, selfishly. I'd like to see them play Winnipeg again, selfishly. But I think after that, moving forward, you can move it to every couple years and still keep that momentum. But I think this is the future for pro sports, especially for teams that brand themselves as a provincial team. I think with the cost of everything these days and wicked changes in climate, it's not, people aren't traveling. I think, teams like the Riders, teams like the Rush, if the Mamba want to rebrand and go provincial, I think you're going to have to do something to serve the part of the province that you're not in. Whether that's a preseason game, a regular season game. I'm not suggesting that Saskatchewan Rough Riders give up a regular season game. You're still getting 30,000 at Griffith Stadium, right? But, based on Rush attendance.
Unless there's some kind of weird, like a World Cup scenario like the Argos and Lions are facing, like you don't do that.
Right. Right, exactly. Like, unless, we're hosting the World Cup somehow, because this is it's going over so well. That's the hotel industry. So, like, I think in the future where you have to motivate people to make the trip to your games, I think you're going to have to go to these places. I would love to see the Rush play a regular season game in Moose Jaw, right? I mean, they're 7,000 to 8,000 on a good night these days, and I'd like to take a trip down to Moose Jaw. I think the Mamba would do gangbusters, playing someplace else, right? And that's not saying that they don't have good fans here. I'm just thinking that, again, you're going to have to give the rest of the province a taste if you want to be a provincial team. If you want to be the Regina Rough Riders, or if the Mamba want to stay the Saskatoon Mamba, or you want to be the Saskatoon Rush, you don't have to. But if you're going to try to draw from this entire province, I think you need to do something like this, like the Riders, to put yourself in front of people and make it easy for people to come to even a preseason game.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was of course a preseason game, but it was also a good football game.
Yeah, it was. It was great.
Watching at home, it was an entertaining football game. Like a lot of preseason games, I'm not going to lie, there are long periods of time where I pretty much just zone out because I'm like, oh,
oof. Yeah, there's a lot of bad ones.
This is rough, but that was a pretty good football game, and I think there's a lot of encouraging signs if you're the Riders. Defense did, kind of what we expect a Corey Mace defense to do. They kept their Bomber run game in check. They gave up a lot of points, but I mean, it's early in the preseason. Weird stuff happens. I wouldn't read too much into any of that, and frankly, most of the Bomber points came off pick sixes anyway. So that's a whole other story.
Yes. Yeah. Outside of Brady Oliveira, the Brady Oliveira was the only offensive touchdown for Winnipeg that afternoon.
Yeah. Sort of like concerns, like the pressure that Winnipeg was able to get for a good chunk of the second half is certainly not great. I don't think there's any concern necessarily over the starting unit, but as we've seen over the last 2 years, odds are some of those guys we saw on Saturday afternoon later in that game are going to have to play. And if they're going to start in those games, they're going to have to be better than we saw. It did kind of clean up as the game went on, but there were certainly issues with that were causing problems for Jack Cohn and Braden Sheger, which brings us to, I think, sort of the topic in Saskatchewan right now. Yes. As it always is. People in Saskatchewan just love talking about the backup quarterbacks. But it's a fair
we wouldn't have a podcast if we couldn't talk about backup quarterbacks.
But it's a fair a fair conversation right now because, last year it was clear cut. Jake Maier was going to be the number 2 behind Trevor Harris. So it was like, okay, there's not much of a conversation to be had here, no matter what you may think of Jake Maier. It was obviously going to be him based purely on how much he was getting paid compared to the other guys.
Yes.
In this case, it's going to be interesting to see what the team does because,
oh boy, yeah.
As I sort of alluded to earlier, had we done this podcast last week, I would have very serious questions about whether they should trust Jack Coan with a football game, let alone, a longer stretch of time should something happen to Trevor Harris. I still have some concerns about Jack Coan, don't get me wrong, but he was better in that game than he was against the Calgary Stampeders. I think part of that was it was obviously a nicer day. They had, the extra week of practice. I think that first play in that preseason week 1 has to be tough when like you literally land in camp and then a week in you're playing a football game. That can't be easy, and that's a problem for both teams. It's not, just is what it is, and you got to deal with it. But I think he looked better, and I think I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, if he has to play a game or 2, they should be able to survive and they'll be okay.
Yes.
Do I think he's a clear-cut number 2? No. I think Braden Shager has done so much in these games that he has to have put some doubt in Corey Mace's mind. But this goes back to a conversation we've had many times. It's something that I remain fairly firm on, is that training camp battles are frankly overrated.
Yes.
Rosters are basically set before these things start, except for maybe a little bit of tinkering around the edges for the most part.
Right.
Every once in a while, there is a clear, actual open battle, like way back in 2012 when Corey Sheets became the running back for this team.
Still remember how good he was in that preseason game. I was there.
Yeah. So it happens every so often, but not all the time. So do I think Braden Shager is going to be the number 2? No. Do I think he deserves to be the number 2? Maybe. But and like a week ago, I still would have thought that, but I would have been far more uncomfortable with it than I am now. Because I think Jack Coan, yes, he didn't light things on fire. Yes, he maybe still holds on to the ball a little too long. And yeah, there's some things he needs to improve on. But there were like the touchdown drive after the half was great. And low key, in the middle of the second quarter, when they were on their own 2-yard line and he got them to at least a couple of first downs and they punted and the Bombers at least had to start at their own 40, that was one of those drives you're like, okay, this doesn't look like much, but getting out of that situation is actually a big deal. There might be at least be something here.
Certainly. And I think if you're Jack Coan, I think if you don't get yourself out of that situation and, the touchdown drive, out of half, like he looked like a different guy out of half.
Yeah.
Like he really did, especially live in person. Like, yeah, he had the good drive from super deep in their own territory. And it's like, okay, you made a couple good passes. Receivers made a couple good plays. The O-line kept you clean. But it was that coming out of halftime, I'm like, okay, this guy can play, right? And I especially on a sunny day when I'm visiting with people and drinking beer, don't expect any in-depth analysis of a football game. But Jack Coan looked a lot better in the second half. Now, Braden Shager looked way better than him.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Coan looked like a serviceable backup.
Yeah.
But Shager looked like the future. And again, it is a 2-game sample size. And again, he was playing against the Bombers 2s. And again and again and again. But it's
even, frankly.
No, but at the 3s at that point. But you still, when you watch quarterbacks, you look at guys that look like they have it.
Yeah.
And Shager passed the 8 beers in eye test. I mean,
that's the new scouting method. How do you look under the 8 beers test?
Right, exactly. And they were tall boys too, Gas. They were tall boys. No light beers for Johnny that day. No, by that time I was on the ginger ale and ryes too, which do not go well on a summer day, weirdly enough. Not gonna lie to you. But Shager to me,
you need to go back to when we went to trials and we had the Ryan sodas.
Oh, a cold Ryan soda.
Yep.
Yeah, those were really good. But Shager to me, like Coan looked like the kind of guy that, could maybe will out a game, but Shager, his ability to move around the pocket, his ability to find guys, the stats show it. I mean, yeah, he made a couple rookie mistakes. Who isn't going to? Especially, This is a guy that to me, Shager looked better than Taylor Elgusma, who grew up his entire life playing 12-man football.
I mean, yeah, but Taylor Elgusma also hasn't really played a game in well over a year.
Also that, right? I'm not saying Shager is going to be better than Elgusma.
No, I'm not saying that, no.
I'm not. I've had some dumb takes. This is not going to be one of them. But it's just watching Shager, and you got to think he's not only working with, he's working against Winnipeg's 2 or 3s, but like the fact that he's finding guys with like obvious training camp numbers in the preseason and throwing them good passes was pretty damn impressive, right? Like he spread the ball out, he moved well in the pocket, he didn't lock into guys. I really, really liked his game, right?
Yeah. And where I'm standing with this right now, I think a week ago I would have been like, well, if Jack Cohn got cut, I wouldn't really think too much about it.
Right.
I'm at the point now where I think the safe play and the one that I think Corey Mace is probably going to do is you probably still name Jack Cohn the backup quarterback.
100%. He's got pro experience
this year. I do believe, though, that the ceiling for Shager at this point is significantly higher than Jack Cohn. So
yes,
this
100%.
is kind of like, he's, again, because everything is wrestling, he's the transitional champion, right? He'll hold the belt for a bit, but you're eventually using him to get the next guy over. And right now, that guy looks like Braden Shager. A lot can change between then and, whenever this actually happens. So I think that's why we hold the boat a little bit on Shager. The challenge is going to be what do you do with him in the meantime, right? Because there's going to be roster implications with this. And
let's face it too, Gas, one other aside on him. We both have a soft spot for him because he's a Rainbow Warrior.
Yes.
Right.
He's a Rainbow Warrior. And, just to talk to this kid's toughness and his abilities and just kind of being his mindset, he admitted to the media after the game that he couldn't see on the last drive. He couldn't see most of the fourth quarter after he took that vicious face mask that apparently he got poked in the eye at that time. So he couldn't see out of his right eye.
I thought he was dead. I thought somebody had snapped his neck.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
Yeah. So he said, and I quote, "I still couldn't see the last drive. I couldn't see out my right eye great, but it's coming back a little bit now." Shager grinned. There were some times where I kind of had to close my eye and just throw it with my left eye. But yeah, it was good.
That's insane.
Depth perception with one eye is not great, and here he is hitting receivers who are moving around on a large field with large men in front of him.
And that says to me, and large men that are coming for your head, because you know what? I am the biggest Blue Bomber fan out here. What were they doing? It's like everybody was trying to go for the RKO out of nowhere. I know Brock Lesnar is going to be in Emerald Park at a Home Hardware signing autographs here right away, but you didn't have to try to impress Brock or Randy Orton. Again, everything is wrestling.
Yeah. So clearly the kid has, all the tools that you want. Whether he can put it all together and be the next quarterback for this team, we'll have to see, but everything is certain there. But the question, is now what do you do in the meantime?
Yes.
Because obviously Trevor Harris is 1. We believe Jack Cohn is going to be 2. Tommy Stevens is still here.
Yes.
The good news is the Riders have some options. They could try to risk practice rostering him because I think teams poaching guys off the practice roster doesn't happen as often as people think it could happen, especially early in the year when teams are settled and think they have their guys.
And especially if a guy like Shager is not going to, if Zach Collaros goes down tomorrow, Shager's not going to be the guy in Winnipeg.
No.
Right? They're going to go try to find some backup off the scrap heap. You're not taking a developmental guy off somebody else's practice roster.
No. So,
I'm sure the PA might have issues with that too. A young guy like that in his first year gets scooped out of the practice roster. I'm sure the PA would make some noise, right?
I mean, but the thing is, if you take a guy off a practice roster, he has to go to the active roster, so that would give him a pay increase, which they would be for.
100%.
That's but the team has a built-in mechanism of that, okay? Because teams have the option if someone puts a claim on a practice roster guy to say no, but then they have to put them on the active roster.
Yes.
So the Riders would have that option should that happen. There's also 2 new spots on each roster this year, where there's essentially 2 inactive players every game now, like there used to be. So this is a way of the league and the PA trying to ensure that not injured players spend the entire year on the one game so they get paid their full salary and don't risk losing them.
Right.
So they could put him in one of those spots so he could essentially be the designated scratch every game like we used to have back in the day.
Or like the NLL has, right?
Yeah, I think there are options there. And one which I have to give credit to 3downnation.com's John Hodge on their podcast made the point that you could, in theory, actually probably dress Tommy Stevens as a tight end at this point. And
Yeah,
then the other
100%
three could be your quarterbacks. Because frankly, let's be honest here, Tommy Stevens should not be a quarterback on this team. He does his job, he does it well. We've been very firm in our stance that you should not be paying a quarterback to do that job.
No. I mean, again, the team was the strongest when Nick Marshall was that guy, right?
So,
and
frankly, again, roster management kind of rears its ugly head, not in like a catastrophic kind of way here, but again, just sort of some little nitpicking things where it's like, if you never signed Tommy Stevens, you'd easily have your three quarterbacks right here, and there would be no problems.
And just throwing it out there, Shager is 6'3", 220.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me you couldn't take this kid in practice and teach him how to do a sneak?
Yeah.
And actually maybe have the threat of that. No, I like the idea. And again, the CFL roster construction is always going to be, far more complicated than just put your best 53 guys out there like in the NFL or the NCAA or anything like that. So I call Tommy Stevens a tight end. Right? And then you just have to have Shager or Cone out on the super wide receiver spot.
Yep, throw him out there instead. And
exactly.
That forces someone to go out there with him.
Right? And then you have less guys in the box.
In the pile.
Right? And again, and again with the CFL roster rules, God forbid something happened in a game to Trevor Harris and Jack Cone. Tommy Stevens is throwing the ball for you now. Instead, you list Stevens as something else. Shager comes in. In the worst case scenario, he's your QB1 while everybody else, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to phrase or curse anybody, because Danhausen's doing that quite well these days. Let's just say Harris has the poops, and I'd rather have Shager over Stevens.
Yes, everyone went to Subway before the game except for Shager and Stevens.
Oh, boy.
But we'll see how it plays out. And the interesting thing now is, like, the team has still some runway here to play with this and figure it out a bit.
So much time.
Which is, like, the week 1 bye in the regular season, they can't do anything that week. But I think there is...
How the hell is the defending Grey Cup champion not at home in week 1?
The league, I don't know.
Like, come on.
This is a conversation every year where not only are they not at home, but how is the Grey Cup defending champion? They do this every year. The defending Grey Cup champion never opens the bloody season with the first game of the year against a rival.
The NFL gets it right every year, even though Thursday Night Football sucks. It's always defending champion.
That is the one Thursday Night Football that doesn't suck because they've actually had a month to prepare for that game.
And you've got the defending champion, now the Jacksonville Jaguars there.
Yeah. So, like, that's we've had this conversation a lot about how the league consistently gets that wrong for whatever reason. No offense to Montreal and Hamilton, which I'm sure will be a fine game, but it's like, the defending champ should open the season as far as I'm concerned. Some people think it should be Grey Cup rematch. I'm not quite on... I don't need to go that far. Like, let them play a division rival. Let them play a rival. Like, that's fine. But yeah, the defending champion should definitely open the season. But the week 3 bye in the preseason to me is mildly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we can all agree week 1 preseason sucks. You don't want to play in that game. You're just not going to be fully prepared for it. I think we saw with how kind of... Well, you didn't see, but the rest of us saw how uninteresting and
There's
bad.
a reason there's no video. It was so bad, Gas. That's why they're doing it.
It was not a very good football game. No one other than, like, Braden Shager and a few other guys really looked that good. But the week 3 bye to me is interesting because so often it's like, okay, we went through training camp, we played these 2 games, and now it's just over and we got to make the decisions on our roster.
Right.
Now the Riders, they've played their preseason games, and now they actually have a week of practice to sort of work out some kinks and maybe see some things they saw from that game and from those games. And maybe that just changes their thinking a little bit or allows them to sort of work on some things that they saw in that game right away, which I don't know. It's just a weird, interesting thought to me. Where I'm like, the week 3 bye in the preseason might not be that bad.
I don't hate the week 3 bye in the preseason. I hate the week 1 bye in the regular season. Mm-hmm. And to go back-to-back on them? Like, that's... CFL schedule makers. Well, at least this year, the regular season games still matter.
This year they do. Yeah, just to put it together now. So, the Riders play the Bombers on May 23rd. We're recording this on May 25th. The Riders don't play a game now until June 13th.
And we are not a preview kind of podcast, so this might be like COVID for the pod here the next couple weeks, Gas.
Well, we have a bye-week episode to do next week, which usually is Ask John Anything, but week 1 is way too early for that in terms of the first bye week of the year, so we'll definitely be doing that later in the year. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me that they would do that to a team that had the week 3 bye in the preseason. But they wouldn't play week. Like, I understand, especially in a World Cup year.
Yeah, the schedule is kind of going to be turbo fucked.
It's going to be weird, and I understand, giving 3 teams a bye in week 1, so you're pushing some games into later in the season when you're not going up against that.
Yes.
I get that, but the defending champions need to be playing. Like, come on. If there's any market that is going to watch a football game over a FIFA World Cup game, especially if you put, say, the Riders and the Stampeders on TV, it's going to be those fan bases.
Right, and they will sit through a long ceremony where you bring out the Grey Cup and you raise the banner and everybody goes bananas lands for it all, but instead, yes, they don't play until June 13th to avoid the precious World Cup.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.